This video provides an overview of Dr. Umar Johnson, a self-proclaimed Prince of Pan-Africanism and a controversial public figure. Dr. Umar Johnson, born Jermaine Shoemake in 1974, is a clinical psychologist, speaker, and prominent public figure. He is known for his direct communication style and, quote, unapologetically African brand. We will now examine his educational background, which is a key part of his public persona and a source of significant controversy. Dr. Johnson holds a BA from Millersville University and a PsyD in clinical psychology from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. However, he faced charges in 2017 for practicing as a, quote, certified school psychologist without a license. Next, we delve into his key theories, starting with Pan-Africanism. At the core of his message is Pan-Africanism, advocating for the political, economic, and social unity of all people of African descent. He emphasizes Black-owned institutions, economic independence, and a return to African cultural values. His book, Psycho-Academic Holocaust, outlines his controversial theories on special education, arguing that Black boys are intentionally misdiagnosed with ADHD and learning disabilities to stigmatize them. We will now examine Dr. Johnson's controversial health beliefs, often categorized as pseudoscience. Pseudoscience relies on anecdotes, not data, is immune to falsification, and starts with a conclusion seeking only confirming evidence. It often uses conspiratorial explanations for dissenting views. Dr. Johnson claims ADHD does not exist. He attributes behaviors like inattention and hyperactivity to an Africandesia, a disconnection from African culture, proposing Afrocentric education as the cure instead of medication. While Dr. Johnson calls ADHD a, quote, complete fabrication, scientific consensus from organizations like the APA, CDC, and WHO recognizes it as a real, common neurodevelopmental disorder with a biological basis. Dr. Johnson has promoted anti-vaccine rhetoric, claiming vaccines are a tool of white supremacy to harm Black children, and suggesting a debunked link between the MMR vaccine and autism. Contrary to Dr. Johnson's claims, decades of global research show no link between vaccines and autism. Vaccines are widely recognized as vital for public health, preventing numerous diseases. He also claims that common foods are part of a plot to, quote, feminize Black men and boys, specifically targeting soy, processed foods, and fast food as tools of this alleged conspiracy. Reframing systemic issues like medical racism or food deserts as a secret plot with feminizing foods and, quote, autism vaccines is a hallmark of pseudoscience, shifting blame from systems to conspirators. A common defense against criticism is to label the scientific method itself as Eurocentric, dismissing contrary evidence and creating an unfalsifiable bubble where only his Afrocentric ideas are valid. Pseudoscience resonates by tapping into real issues like historical medical racism, offering an empowering explanation that blames a conscious enemy rather than complex, systemic problems. When a theory becomes immune to evidence and its proponents attack critics instead of addressing data, it transitions from a theory to dogma. Since 2014, Dr. Johnson has been fundraising for the FDMG Academy, a planned boarding school. However, the school's failure to open despite significant funds raised has led to accusations of financial mismanagement. We will now examine the financial accountability crisis surrounding the FDMG Academy, scrutinizing its nonprofit management and IRS reporting. The FDMG Academy Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit, relies on small dollar donations. While estimated to have raised millions, its decentralized funding model requires transparent oversight. FDMG's IRS filings have been erratic, with false EZ forms stating less than $50,000. Despite public announcements of millions raised. Repeated delinquency led to automatic revocation of its tax-exempt status multiple times. The available public filings lack detailed financial records, with vague expense categories and no independent audits, raising serious questions about internal controls and transparency for a large fundraising effort. Repeated delinquency led to the revocation of FDMG's 501c3 status, meaning donations were not tax-deductible. This noncompliance is a significant regulatory red flag, suggesting potential financial mismanagement. The FDMG properties deed was initially placed in Dr. Johnson's personal name, a severe violation of nonprofit governance as charitable assets must be held by the organization, establishing a clear conflict of interest. Despite millions raised, the property was purchased with mortgages and outstanding tax liabilities. This suggests a disparity between publicly announced cash reserves and the actual funds applied debt-free to the property. Critics accuse Dr. Johnson of personal enrichment, arguing that vague, quote, travel expenses and the majority of documented foundation expenses fund his public speaking tours, blurring the line between charity and personal business. A key indicator of deliberate mismanagement is the deflection of legitimate questions with personal attacks and conspiracy theories, rather than providing transparent documentation and accountability. Donors for the FDMG Foundation have zero recourse due to the lack of public financial records. Financial data is controlled by Dr. Johnson, fostering a culture of fear that silences concerned supporters and constitutes a broken trust. Despite Dr. Johnson's repeated promises of a comprehensive, independent audit for the FDMG Academy, none has been publicly released. This unfulfilled promise drives accusations of fraud and mismanagement. We now move to a critical review of the FDMG Academy, analyzing the potential harm stemming from its stated ideology. The FDMG Academy aims for an Afrocentric education, independent of quote 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 quote. Critics argue that a school built on Dr. Johnson's core theories could be inherently harmful to its students. Our first argument against the FDMG Academy's ideology focuses on the potential for pseudoscience in the classroom. If the school operates under the belief that ADHD does not exist, students with diagnosable neurodevelopmental disorders could be denied necessary medical and psychological care, being told their issue is a, quote, cultural disconnection. The FDMG diagnosis would mislabel symptoms like hyperactivity as an African dysia, leading to medical neglect masked as empowerment, with Afrocentric curriculum replacing actual treatment. A school based on Dr. Johnson's anti-vaccine claims that vaccines are a quote, 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 supremacist plot would likely not require vaccinations, creating a high-risk environment for preventable disease outbreaks. Dr. Johnson's theories on feminizing foods would likely lead to an unscientific, restrictive diet at the school, potentially causing nutritional deficiencies and fostering an unhealthy, paranoid relationship with food. Our second argument addresses the significant social and psychological harm that could result from the FDMG Academy's stated ideology. Dr. Johnson's public statements on the LGBTQ+ community could lead to an official school policy of intolerance, creating an actively hostile environment for any student perceived as gay or queer, fostering bullying and psychological abuse. In an anti-LGBTQ+ school environment, there would be no safe spaces or support for LGBTQ+ youth. Students questioning their identity could face, quote, reparative therapy or expulsion based on the belief that being gay is, quote, un-African. The focus on reclaiming manhood promotes a rigid, hypermasculine ideal that is hostile to emotion or nonconformity. His views on interracial marriage and gender roles suggest a harmful perspective, where Black women are secondary to the Black male agenda, promoting rigid patriarchal roles. A school founded on this ideology would not cultivate leaders. Instead, it would program followers into a rigid, intolerant, and paranoid worldview, shaping a challenging psychological environment. Our third argument focuses on intellectual and academic isolation. This is a critical concern for the educational development of students. By labeling established science as Eurocentric and white supremacist, the school would teach students to reject the scientific method. This could lead to an inability to engage with the modern world and a rejection of critical thinking in favor of ideological dogma. Instead of understanding systemic issues like medical racism or food deserts, this ideology reframes them as a secret plot with feminizing foods and autism vaccines. This approach creates conspiracy theorists rather than critical thinkers, hindering problem-solving abilities. A curriculum that rejects the scientific method, evidence-based history, and established psychology would not be accredited. Graduates would receive a worthless diploma, limiting their ability to pursue higher education or employment, and leaving them isolated and unqualified. Our fourth argument presents the case against support for the FDMG Academy. This section will delve into the reasons why support is not recommended. Years of fundraising have occurred without financial transparency. When questioned, the defense involves attacking the questioners and demanding to know what they've built for Black people. He also claims that those seeking accountability are agents aiming to disrupt his movement. Critics argue against supporting the FDMG Academy due to financial risk, citing a lack of transparency and accountability for millions raised. Furthermore, ethical harms are noted as the institution is theoretically built on medical pseudoscience, social intolerance, and academic isolation. Next, we will explore some of the major controversies surrounding Dr. Umar Johnson. These points highlight areas of significant public contention. Dr. Johnson is known for his anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric, linking it to pedophilia and population control. He also opposes interracial marriage, seeing it as detrimental to the Black community. Financial scrutiny continues regarding his fundraising, leading to accusations of being a scam artist. This segment will address Dr. Johnson's history of aggression and conflict. We will examine how this has manifested in his public and private interactions. His unapologetic approach often leads to verbal aggression towards critics, using derogatory labels like coon or sellout. Disagreement is frequently framed as a lack of blackness or disloyalty, showcasing a confrontational rhetorical style. His appearances on The Breakfast Club frequently become confrontational, particularly with Charlemagne the God, who has questioned the FDMG school and his finances. Johnson responds by attacking the host's character, calling him a tool for white supremacy. His aggression extends beyond mainstream media to feuds within the Black conscious community. A notable example is his public dispute with Sara Sutton-Sethi, involving numerous videos with personal insults, threats, and attacks on credibility. When critics seek financial transparency for the FDMG school, Johnson avoids providing records. Instead, he attacks their character, asking what they've built for Black people. He then accuses them of being agents or saboteurs, trying to halt the first Black-owned school. Dr. Johnson's professional credentials have faced legal challenges. In 2017, he was charged with practicing psychology without a license by the Pennsylvania State Board of Psychology, leading to a consent agreement, fine, and an agreement to cease misrepresentation. His aggression has even been directed at his own family members. In a public dispute, his father and other relatives criticized his handling of the FDMG project. Dr. Johnson dismissed these criticisms as family dysfunction and jealousy. He uses social media platforms, such as Instagram, to identify and call out critics by name. This often involves posting their pictures, names, or private messages, inciting his followers to harass them, which is a tactic of public shaming to silence dissent. His most aggressive tactic against Black critics is labeling them as destabilization agents or tools of white supremacy. This allows him to avoid addressing criticism, frame the critic as a racial traitor, and reinforce his own importance by suggesting systemic opposition. This strategy solidifies his base, who see his aggression as passion and willingness to fight. However, it alienates potential allies among other Black leaders due to personal attacks. This, with him or against him, dynamic silences, nuanced debate, and internal accountability. Dr. Johnson remains a prominent speaker, often invited to college campuses by specific student groups, yet these events frequently face protests. His viral media appearances, especially on platforms like The Breakfast Club, demonstrate his significant influence. His unapologetic style resonates with some, while drawing sharp criticism.